Yeah, welcome back to Python class. Today we'll be looking at for loop and while loop. We are starting with for loop, and for loop is used to iterate over sequence that is either a list, tuple, dictionary, set, or a string. For loop can execute set of statements once for each item in a list or tuple, set, string, or dictionary. And the keyword we are going to make use of mostly is the for keyword, which is for. Now let's quickly look at an example. Let's declare a variable. We say fruit equals apple, mango, and cherry. Then how do we use for loop to loop through the values? We say what? For x in fruit. Then we print x. Don't forget to indent your code. Then we have all the values in our apple, in our fruit being displayed. This process is called looping through, and we only loop through a list here. We can also loop through a dictionary, we can loop through a set, we can loop through a string. So you can use it to loop through a list, set, dictionary, or string, including tuple. Yeah. So let's try to look at how to loop through a string. Let's say for x in banana. So it's going to loop through the number of array in banana. So we have what? Print x. Then we have every list appearing. So also we have a break statement. Break statement is used to break the loop. When you are running a for loop, you can break the loop with with break statement. For example, we have um for x in fruit, print x. You can write it this way. Then you can say if x is equals to mango. Remember, it's case sensitive. Python is case sensitive. So if x is equals to mango, then what do we want it to do? We want it to break, abi? Say break. Remember to indent your code. I keep saying that. So that once you press enter and you press it again, you have, oh, my print statement is wrong. Put print x, then we have if x goes to mango, we have break. So when we press, we have what? Apple mango. Immediately it gets to mango, it will break the loop. It will not loop again. That is what break does here. The break, once you specify where you want the break to stop, we want the break to stop once x is equals to mango. So we want it to break and do not continue the looping. So immediately you get to x is equals to mango, that is the value in x is mango, and when it check it with the variable we are, with the string we are comparing with it with, it sees that it's also a mango, then it will break. Then we also have another uh functionality called continue. We use continue statement to continue our loop. For example, we say if x in fruit, if x is equals to mango, you can write it here continue, and you can bring it down just the way I bring break down. Continue, then we want what? Remember to indent your code. We want it to print x. So we want it to, oh sorry, I supposed to put my x, my print under the for loop and not the if statement. This way now I have placed it under the if statement. That's another mistake one can do when you are writing your code. So we are going to write this and we have this. So continue. The print has to be under the if. Then we have our statement. Now it says continue is not in the loops. Fine. I will bring the continue down so that we can have it in the loop. But it should work having it by this side. But I don't know why it's not working. But let's bring it down. Let's have the loop again. So no. Let me uh, let me rewrite for x in fruit indent if x is equals to mango, and even the mango I have made a mistake because it's case sensitive. Mango, then we indent again continue, and under the if we have our print x, and here we have our response. Now this is telling you that what, he looped through the first column, which is apple. He found apple there, he add it to the print. Then we immediately get to mango, he found out he needs to stop and continue. So he had to continue and jump the mango, then continue on cherry. So that's tell you that he's noticed that something supposed to happen in between that particular place we have mango before it can continue on cherry. So that is that will continue. Then we have range. We can use range with our for loop by saying for c in for for y in range say 10. Then we have what, print y, and that give us the list of numbers that we have from the range 0 to 10, which is going to be 0 to 9. And mind you, when you have your range, the value will be 0 to 9 and not 0 to 10, because the in programming our value start from 0 upward. So that's why it's going to start from 0 when counting the range. Then you can also declare the starting and the ending point when using range. For example, you can say for x in range 2 to 2 comma 10, that is, the starting point will be 2 and the ending point will be 10. Print x. So it will start from 2 down to x. The name print. Oh, why am I making error with this my print today? Print x, and we have it starting from 2 down to 9, which means we have it to start from 2 and it should end at 9. So that is how to specify the start and end point. Then we also have a situation where you can specify the start, the end, and the steps. What do we mean by start, end, and step? The step is just to indicate how many steps is going to count before picking the next number to display. For example, if you want to do multiples of 2, multiples of 5, multiples of 6, you have to use steps. So let's quickly try that. We can say for x in range 2 comma 20, that's range 2 to 20, comma, we want it to be in 2 steps. Want it to be in 2 steps. So this is the start point, the end point, and the steps. Then we say what? Indent print x. And we have it 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, and that's where it's going to stop, because after 18 it is 20. So that is the steps of 2. Then you can use any multiples you like for that steps. So also our for loop can also have an else statement. Our for loop can have an else statement in the sense that the else statement will be displayed after the loop has been completed. But when you have a break in your for loop statement, the information in the else statement will not be displayed. Let's quickly try that and see. You say for x in range 6, I didn't put a quote. For x in range 6, print x, right? Then we say else. What do we want it to do? Once is else, we say well print finally finished. Then after the list of number in range 6 has been displayed, is going to show the else statement, which is finally finished, and that's because we don't have a break in our code. Now we want to do the one that we have a break in the code. In that case, we say for x in range 10, for x in range 10 index, we say if x is equals to 4. Are you getting it? Break. You can put your break this way. Then we say print, you indent, your indent should be once here because we want to print under for loop and not under the if statement. So we say print x. If we want to print under the if statement, we are going to tab it to the front one more. We indent it to the front one more. But we are printing under the for loop, so we are going to put it rightly under the if statement. Then enter, then else. We want to print finally finished. Print finally finished, and immediately we check that, you see that finally finished was not displayed. Why? Because we have a break statement in it, and we told the loop to break once e get to 4. So as it counts 0, 1, 2, 3, it's 4 already, so it will break, and that is all. Then we have a nested loop. In for loop, there is what we call nested loop, and the nested loop is a process whereby you have a for loop in a for loop. You have a for loop statement inside a for loop statement. Now let's quickly try that. We have for x in, before we declare the for, let's declare two variables. For example, adj equals to red, big, tasty, and fruit. I think we have fruit already, okay, so we can use that. So we have the second variable as adj. So now adj and fruit is our variable, which is two variable. We want to loop through that. We'll say for x, okay, let me go one line down. For x in adj, that is the first variable, which is adj. Then we want what? We want to loop through the second one too. We say for y in fruit. Now we already have two loops, and the two loops is what? For loop. So we indent and we want to print x and y, x comma y. If you like, you can change your values to be y comma x. It doesn't have anything to do. Now in this situation, when you have a nested for loop, the inner loop will be executed one time for each iteration of the outer loop. That is, this inner loop, which is y in fruit, this y will be iterated one time. That is, as the x is moving through all its loop, it will move through the y loop once until it completes the iteration of the outer loop before all the iteration will be completed. Now let's print and see. Can you see that red is the first value here? It looped through red and looped through the second iteration, which is for the fruit, which is apple. Loop through red again, loop through this, loop through this. So as e loop through the first one here, e get all the value for the second one attached to the red. E loop through the second one, which is big, e get the value for all the second item, second for loop items. Then e loop through the third one, got all the values again for the third item. Is that clear now? So that is that. Then when you try to manipulate it, let's see what will happen. For x in adj, then you say, now say print, we want you to print x, then we now decide to say for y in fruit, we want this one to now print y. Okay now. Then at the outer part, that is under this one, we want to print xy, xy, xy. So print x comma y. Let's see if we are not going to fall into error. Now you can see for the first one, e loop through red, apple, mango, cherry. That is what e gave us, because we said print x is it first of all print the first value in x, which is red, then go down here to print the three value in y, come back again to print the one we say you should print here, print xy. Can you see? Red cherry. Then came back again to print the next one big, which is this. Then print the three values in y, mango, apple, cherry. After that, print the xy, which is big cherry, tasty apple. Can you see that? So he came back again to print the third one, which is tasty, for this print x, tasty. Thereafter, print all the variables in y, all the values in y, which is apple, mango, cherry, and print this one as the last one, tasty and cherry. Can you see that? The only thing he's picking here is cherry, cherry, cherry for this last one, because it does not have the chance to loop through. It only loop through once and print it. That's why it's giving us cherry. If we move this print under here, it's going to give us the output it gave us up here as our response. So that is what you will get when you make use of the for loop, the nested for loop. Then the next one we are going to look at is the pass. The pass statement. How do we use pass? When you don't have any information you want to pass or you want to output to the world or to the user, you can use pass to make sure that the code does not break and it can continue its operation elsewhere. So what do you do? Say for x, for c in what? In range, let's use range. In range 5. What do we want to do? We are not doing anything. So what we need to do is we'll just press pass. Pass, and when you pass it, that's all. Nothing will happen. Your code will keep on running, and the condition you check has been met. Once the condition is met and it sees nothing to do, it will pass the place and continue its own activities. So that is how to use the pass statement in every of these in every of the conditional statement. Either it is if, for, or while, it will surely pass. Exactly now. Then let's quickly go to while statement. So before we start while statement, I want to clear this off so that we can do another variable, cute, here, and return to the shell. All right. Now we want to do the while loop. While loop. While loop conditional statement. All right. So in while loop can execute a set of statements as long as a condition is true. So when you want to use while loop, you are to make sure that the condition is true. If the condition is false, it will keep on looping, and that is what we call infinite loop. It will loop, and if care is not taken, your system might run till it gets crashed. So when you are working with while loop, make sure you know vividly what you want to do and the condition you want to pass in order to make sure that the condition is met and at the same time work well. So let's quickly look at how to make use of while loop. First, we have to declare a variable I equals to 0. So when you want to use while loop, you have to declare a variable. Either you let your I start from 0 or it starts from 1, or it starts from 10, or whatever you want it to start from. So I equals to 0, then you say what? While I is equals to, sorry, while I is less than 6. Now, what we are saying is, as long as I is less than 6, what do we want it to do? All right. About the syntax, I've declared, did I use capital letter W? Okay, let's see. I equals to 0. Why, yeah, I make use of capital letter W, sorry. While I, while I is less than 6, yes. So, as long as I is less than 6, what do we want it to do? We want it to print I, to print that I for us. At the same time, we want it to increment, that is, it should increase until that I is greater than 6, or equals to, say, let's say I we should increment I. So we say I equals to I, oh sorry, we say I equals to I plus 1. Don't mind the first I made a mistake, that's why I had to rewrite it, but it won't affect uh the code. So we can write our I equals to I this way, or we write it like this. We can write it as I plus equals 1. In this case, this is the same thing as I equals to I plus 1. So when we run it, you can see that it loop through and stop, because as long as that I is equals to 5, and as long as that I is equals to 5, when e check that, okay, is 5 less than 6, yes, e continue. So when e now get to the increment, e added 5 to 1, making it 6. In that case, I is now 6, because this I here will be increment. As this one is incremented, that means it's changing the value here to increase. So this I here has become 6, and immediately you check while 6 is less than 6, you see that the condition is not met. So it has to what? Stop. That means we are through with the condition we are checking. So that is that about the while loop. So, and one thing is, while loop requires relevant variables to be ready. Is that clear now? And in this code now, you see that we declare I as our variable, which is relevant, and we set it to 0. So as it increments, that is 0 plus 1 will give us 1, it start again to check all over again. Once you get there, oh, it's still the same thing, okay, 0 plus, I mean 1 plus 1, 2, you go back to the beginning again to loop through again, to check again. Once, oh, it's still 2, 2 plus 1, 3, check again, 3 plus 1, 4, you go back again, 4 plus 1, 5, go back again, 5 plus 1, 6, then it's going to stop, because it's not, 6 is not less than 6, so it's going to stop looping in that process. Then we have the break and continue statement in while loop too. For example, we say we have the I already. So let's say I while I is less than 6, or let me say 10. While I is less than 10, what do we want to do? We want to print I, at the same time increment I. But before we increment I, we want to break the value from incrementing continuously. So we say if I is equals to 5, we want it to break. So if I is equals to break, to 5, what do we want to do? We want to break. In that case, so what? We say ensure to index, we say break. Now that we break it, what do we want it to do? Under the while loop, remember we are under while loop now. If our statement is under the if, we are under while loop. If our statement is under break, we are under if statement. So take note of your indentation when you are writing your code. So now our while loop, as long as it's looping through I to check if it's less than 10, we want it to print I and increment I. Is that clear now? So in that case, we are going to say I plus equals 1. We want to increment I as long as the condition has not been met. So once I is equals to 5, it has immediately this incrementation hit 5 is going to come to this condition if, to check if I is equals to 5. And if it checks that I is equals to 5, it's going to break and stop the loop. So let's see how it's going to be. Can you see that? It breaks immediately and stop the loop. So that is how we carry out our for loop state, while loop. Then we can also use that for continue by saying while I is less than 10, we do what? We print. While I is less than 10, we want I to increment by 1, that is to increase by 1, and also to check if I is equals to 5. What should it do? It should continue. And once it continue, what do we want it to do again? We want it to print I. The I now that we want to print is under the for loop. Take note of that. Then once you press enter, can you see? Want it to continue. So let me change the value again to see if it's going to work fine through that process. Let's say 3. So what continue does is that it will continue the next iteration if the condition you specify has been met. That's why we did not have any output the other time, because the condition we specify has been met. So it will continue with the next iteration. Then let's see what is next. Print I. Can you see that it's the same thing? So that is that on the continue statement. It will continue on the next iteration, and the next iteration should be 4. And when you look at the break, in for loop statement, you see that it continue on the next one. But in while loop, because while loop will make sure that e loop through everything before bringing out the output. So now immediately you break it, it will bring out the remaining one that is expected to loop as the output, which is why we have 6, 7, 8, 9 the other time. And when you now use continue supposed to continue on the next um output, on the next iteration. So now that we've checked the condition 3 and it has met the condition, continue we should continue from the next iteration, which is what we are expecting. And the output here is nothing, because the while loop will keep on iterating, and it expected to have stopped before it continues. So nothing stops, and that is why we're having that as an output. So instead of it to show the I need to pause it. Yeah, okay. Now, what I finally discovered was that I was using the predefined I that we have earlier, and that is why the break that we did earlier was not giving us what we're supposed to have. It's supposed to give us the number from the beginning, then break when it gets to 5. And also the continue supposed to skip the exact number we said you should use to check before it continue. So we're going to redo that. So let me quickly um define the value that, let's say, c is equals to 0. We say while c is less than 6. We want it to print I. At the same time, if sorry, I'm going to have an error. Want to print c. All right. So c is equals to 0. Then while c is less than 6, we want it to print c and also check if c is equals to 3. You check and then break, then increment c dot equals 1. So in that case, we're supposed to have 0, 1, 2, 3. Yes, this is correct. So this is what we're supposed to have when we make use of the break. Then let's define d equals to 0. Then we say while d is less than 10, we want it to what? We want it to print, we want to print and increment d. So we say d plus equals 1. So also we want to check if d is equals to 5. What do we want it to do? We want it to continue. We indent this and say continue. Then we print d. Like this, we have what? Now you can see what I'm saying. 5 will be missing in the list. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. No 5. Can you see? 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So that is the function of break and continue. The continue we start from the beginning, then when you get to that point you specify that you should continue, it will break there and continue immediately. But that point where it break, the number there will be what? Missing. It will not be added to the output. The same thing happens to break. Break will stop at that exact number you specify that it should stop. So also we have nested while loop. But before we go to nested while loop, we look at else statement in while loop. So let's quickly declare our variable for the initiation, that is the starting point. So we say g is equals to 0, that's the starting point. Then we say while g is greater than, sorry, is less than 10, we want to print d. At the same time, increment g, print b, increment g, Den else if dat does not happen, what should happen? Or if dat has happen, what should happen? We don't know what will happen, but let's say we want it to be what? To print P is no longer less than 6. So if the condition have been met, so it's no longer less than 10 oh. If the condition have been met, it will check until it gets to 10, and once the condition is greater than 10, it will what? It will stop and go to the else statement. So we have this, can you see? G is no longer less than 10. So G is now equals or greater than 10. Then that is where we are going to stop today, and we proceed to the next topic in our next class. Thank you and have a wonderful day.